You are listening to the Love and Confidence Podcast, episode number 102. Welcome to the Love and Confidence Podcast. If you're a woman who wants to feel more irresistible, have more fun, and create deeper and more authentic connections, this podcast is for you. I am your host, certified life coach Lærke Nielsen, and I help you become the best and most confident version of yourself so you can attract the love life you desire. Let's get started. Hey there. Today I'm going to share with you a concept that can be potentially life-changing, nothing less. Just saying. You can use this in all areas of life, not just dating and relationships. You can use it in goal setting, in career, in health, in all kinds of other relationships, anything in life. And when I speak about it now, it's because it's one of the most important parts of growing your confidence. And I'm going to jump straight into it by sharing with you first the most important thing to understand, because the key to understand this concept is that your thoughts are not just the way they are. You are not doomed if you have a lot of negative self-talk or worry about your future. You can actually change how you think. You can choose thoughts on purpose. And that is important for one main reason. Your thoughts create your feelings, and your feelings are what drive or motivate your actions, your behavior. So already there, you see that there's a good reason to pay attention to what kind of thoughts you allow your brain to repeat to you throughout the day. And according to several sources, the human brain has approximately 60,000 thoughts per day. And 95% of them are repetitive. They are the same thoughts you had yesterday and that you're also going to have tomorrow. And then 75% of them are negative. Now that is a lot, right? It's quite amazing to imagine that we can actually be in a good mood if we have 75% negative thoughts. And you can ask yourself, why do we have so many negative thoughts? Why is the brain created like this? And this all dates back to the time when we were living in caves, the cave woman time, where we needed to be hyper alert for any potential dangers. We needed to look out for anything that could go wrong, and we also needed to constantly adjust our own behavior to stay accepted and stay included in the group because we couldn't survive alone. So therefore, the human brain is actually designed to look out for things that can go wrong, to be hyper vigilant, to be alert, to worry a lot about potential dangers, and also to worry about what other people think of us and whether they might judge us and whether they might reject us and so on. This was all important for our survival back in the days. And in a way, it's funny to think about that all this kind of negative self-talk and worrying and thoughts that make it difficult to thrive today, they have actually given us a survival advantage back then. So maybe if you have a lot of these thoughts, you can have more compassion with yourself by understanding that this is a residual function of your brain that has helped humankind survive throughout times. So for many of us, until we learn about this, there's a tendency to believe that my thoughts, that's just the way I am. I just have to accept that. We don't know that we can change them. And I remember once, many years ago, I noticed that about myself. I noticed that annoying thing that if I didn't work intentionally on changing my mood, I would be by default in a negative mood. That this was sort of my automatic state of mind. And I had to work to fight against it. And I thought for a long time that this was just because there was something wrong with me, that I was a very negative person, and that I sometimes had very self-critical thoughts and a very negative approach to life. But now, luckily, today, I know that this is just the way my brain works, and it doesn't mean that I'm a negative person. Actually, I don't think I'm a negative person at all, and I definitely don't have a negative approach to life, but I can see when I look back that I had that more in the past when I didn't know that I could change my thoughts and I could change them on a longer term as well. So you can imagine that was a relief to find out that I could actually practice other thoughts and I could sort of make the other thoughts the default thoughts that I had automatically. And that, of course, changed both the way I felt and the way I showed up in my own life. So if you didn't know that, I just want you to really let that sink in for a moment. Your thoughts is what create your feelings. It's not other people, it's not the weather, it's not your boss or your neighbors. It's the thoughts you have about the circumstances in your life. And you can choose to change your thoughts. Not because you want to lie to yourself or gaslight yourself, but because there is often more than one way of seeing a circumstance or a situation. In fact, there's often many ways of perceiving that same situation. And when we change our thoughts, we also change our feelings and our behavior. So it's really about choosing the thoughts that serve you the most. Not always the most positive thoughts, because that would also not be true. And it would actually feel like gaslighting yourself. But it's about choosing the thoughts that are better in the sense that they motivate behavior that serves you. So, coming back to confidence. Confidence is a feeling. It's something that you feel, and it's created by your thoughts. It's created by the thoughts you have about yourself and what you are capable of. And I like to think of this as a soundtrack in your brain. You have this background music all of the time with thoughts about yourself, what your life is like, your possibilities in life, and what other people think of you, and so on. And this soundtrack determines how you feel. So if you have a lot of negative self-talk, for instance, you have a very negative soundtrack that just puts you down on repeat. Constant negative thoughts about who you are, what you say and do, how you look, what you think other people think of you, and so on. Imagine having a playlist with only songs about how you are never good enough, never interesting, never smart, funny, creative, or cool enough. How you always say and do the wrong things. How it's always embarrassing and other people don't like you and you will definitely never find a partner, so you might as well get used to the thought of being alone forever. If you had a playlist with only songs like that, you most likely wouldn't want to listen to that on repeat for the whole day. And still, this is what we do when we let our brains run wild on automatic negative thoughts on repeat, because it's repeating all through the day and the next day too. And it makes you feel horrible about yourself. It makes you feel embarrassed, discouraged, not enough or too much, hopeless, shameful, and so on. And what kind of behavior do we have when we feel this? Do we show up authentically with a confident glimpse in the eyes on a date? No, of course not. Most likely, we don't even want to go on a date. We'd rather hide at home and not put ourselves into a place where our brain can find even more reasons to criticize us. The negative self-talk is like a negative playlist that plays on repeat in your brain. And if you listen to it for a long time, you most likely don't even think of it as thoughts. You more think of it as facts of life. That's just who I am. That's just how I think about myself. I'm boring. I'm not attractive. I'm not funny. I'm not pretty. I'm not smart. I'm not interesting. And I'm not good at dating and relationships. But those are not facts of life. Those are all judgments. They are all totally subjective. And why would you want to subscribe to this kind of soundtrack when it's not even true and it makes you feel crappy? This is where I'll tell you the good news that I have already shared with you several times now. You can change your thoughts. You can choose another soundtrack. You can put together a new playlist of songs with encouraging, empowering, self-loving thoughts that make you feel great about yourself and believe more in your possibilities in life. And then put that on repeat. Turn your negative self-talk into positive self-talk. This doesn't mean that you become arrogant or narcissistic or something like that. I once heard someone on a webinar state that when we all practice self-love, there is a risk that it turns into narcissism. And I thought it was kind of funny because, of course, this is not the case. You don't become a narcissist just because you love yourself. And nothing prevents you from loving others and loving yourself. You also don't become arrogant from having a good, healthy self-confidence. Arrogance is actually the opposite. It's a cover-up for insecurity. So it's a reaction to a lack of confidence. But you might think that it's difficult to change the soundtrack you've listened to for years and years. And I think we all know this situation where you listen to a song on the radio or you hear a song somewhere and then it just gets on your brain. You can't get it out of your head again. You keep hearing this song the whole rest of the day or sometimes even longer, and then you finally get rid of it. But then a week later, you hear someone else playing it, and it starts all over again. And you have this song all the time on your brain. And you get really annoyed by this song, but it feels impossible to get rid of. But then you can actually decide to do something to intentionally change the song on your brain. You go and look in your music library and you find a song that you like and that you want to listen to on repeat instead. And then you just have to play it once and then you practice playing it inside your head afterwards. So every time the other song comes up, you choose on purpose to play the new one to override the first one. And if you do this consistently, you will stop hearing the old one. You will have changed the song that you have on your brain. And changing your thoughts is not that different, except it's in some way actually easier because there are some tools that you can use to reinforce the new thought and that I teach inside my program. So you want to start by realizing what your soundtrack sounds like. What is it that you are listening to on repeat and automatically right now? Is it a true cacophony of dysfunctional, disharmonic, aggressive, and very uncomfortable tones of negativity? Well, then you know why you don't feel great about yourself. Maybe you have thoughts like, I'm not interesting enough to find a good man. I'll be alone forever because I don't know how to do relationships. Men always run away when they get to know me for real. I am difficult to be with, so I have to work harder for love than everyone else. When you have these thoughts, you can figure out that the feelings they create are not driving the actions of showing up confidently as yourself with a big smile. These are more thoughts that make you want to hide or just give up. Sometimes the awareness in itself is actually enough to at least take you a good part of the way to completely changing the soundtrack. Noticing the negative soundtrack and maybe writing out the thoughts that you have can be very transformative in itself. And then you want to choose your new soundtrack. A playlist of beautiful, harmonic, and soothing pieces of music. Something that will make you feel more self-compassionate, accepting, and kind to yourself. And in the beginning, you might want to just shift into a soft, neutral kind of vibe. Because if we go from strongly negative to hyper positive, it can feel like we're gaslighting ourselves. It can feel like toxic positivity, and your brain most likely doesn't buy into that. So you choose something in between as a stepping stone, and that will at least allow you to get rid of the negative self-critical thoughts and go to a more neutral space. And this could sound something like, I'm doing my best to show up as my true self. I am committed to finding love no matter how much time it's gonna take. I will learn from my dates and eventually figure out what it is I want and how I can create a great experience for myself on a date. As long as I'm trying my best, it's good enough. Here you might feel a lot of accept and compassion with yourself and also a calm kind of confidence, the committed and determined one. You are already having your own back here and supporting yourself much more than before. And then, when you're ready, you can increase the positivity, turn up the volume, and go to a confident and empowering vibe. And that could sound something like, I have a lot to offer in a relationship, even if I'm not perfect. I am fun to invite out on a date, and most men enjoy my company. I'm a catch because I know my value. I'm great company. I can talk to almost anyone, and I'm as loving and forgiving with others as I am with myself. I am unique and have quality personality traits that I value myself. So, with these thoughts, how do you show up on a date? Much more confident, right? There are, of course, a million different kinds of soundtracks, playlists, and mix of thoughts, and you need to find the one that can give you exactly the confident feeling you're looking for. With thoughts, it's a bit like pieces of clothes. You have to choose one and try it on, see how it fits, and then either keep it or choose another one. Or listen to the song, see if it brings you the energy you're looking for, and if not, then try another one. It's very individual what kind of thought works for us, what are the words that feel true to us and that brings out the exact energy that you want. And that is why generic affirmations rarely work. You need to come up with your own composition of power thoughts, the new playlist. And then when you have the right mix, you decide to play that on repeat. And see how this changes your life. So that was all I had for you today, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you haven't taken the Love Confidence quiz yet, then go ahead and do it. There's a link in the show notes. Thank you for listening. And don't forget, no matter if you're single or not, you are loved, you are worthy, and you are important in this world. Have an amazing week. If you like what you're hearing on this podcast and you want to get support from a coach on your love journey, I invite you to book a free consult call with me. You will find the link in the show notes. And also, don't forget to subscribe, and I would love it if you would rate and review this podcast, and then you'll also help other women find it.